Okay, we're entering part two now. Sorry about the quick change there off of it, but it's a great time to do the change. For this is the picture that the Negro is trying to show for the same situation, and I don't know why they'd have to, but it shows you that they manipulate things to try to make a lie because they know the truth. For if we look at this, you can tell how black they made the Egyptians, and they left these guys all alone. And again, you can tell that by the different colors of the people and where they are in order, and him holding a bow and so on. You know, red, blue, blue, white, red, blue, in order. Little kid here, donkey with a pattern onto it, two kids, things sticking up. These guys here holding two of them, but look how dark they made these two guys, but then left them pale too. It's because he pretty much shaded over it, then he painted these in black. And whenever I let this roll, it goes from that to the picture we were just looking at, but this is in another video that I had just recently. So this shows you something about that picture and how they change it. And it should flip any second now and show you the difference of the two, and then I do go back and forth with it. And so you can probably see real easily that this is the same picture. And whenever you look at it, there's the blue, white, red, blue, donkey thing, bow, kid standing there with, but my pointer, it's over it right now. Two kids, things sticking up, guy leaning the other bow. But look, they're the same color. They're light, and then these guys are just tanned. But why did he have to make them even darker? It shows you they're trying to have this deception, and that's one way it just really, you know, debunks the entire idea entirely of what they're trying to say. Not only with the fact that West African primitives didn't even know that Egypt existed, and nor the Bible or anything, and that's the end of that. Of course, they're not part of the biblical people; those are Caucasians too, and this all goes together. The one thing that doesn't go together is blacks trying to interject themselves into it. So the Great Flood and stuff. That story, of course, it, again goes through the Middle East, Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and the Levant. Something shared by them, something shared in the Bible, something that I've shown connections to in a lot of my videos. So when people get on one of my videos like this, they have no idea what I've already gone through and what I know. And they're all like, "Oh, you don't know anything?" Like that stupid Radio 1 racist black guy that always says Hotep and he's a Negro and all that. He's an Egyptian Negro to my ancestors and stuff. And then he yells and spits. Well, lo and behold, he actually said that because I don't have any videos older than 2 years on this channel, which it really goes back 4, but I've turned off most of them and show that in my reveal video, that I didn't know anything about Egypt and didn't know it existed and couldn't have even studied, because you only study if you make YouTube videos, and no one ever has studied if they didn't make YouTube videos. And he just makes a literal fool of himself. It's and yelling and pointing at it and saying that I can't even talk about Egypt, trying to tell me what to do. It was really hilarious. If y'all want to see something funny, look it up. Go to my site, look up Radio 1 right here, and it'll show you it. And you can even see his video where he tries to claim and how he makes the claim. 7 Phoenician 7 too made a couple of videos about that same series there, and how ignorant and how logic just doesn't seem to work with black people. So the evidence for now still needs more analysis, he says, but no, it doesn't. And it's had far enough analysis, it's only having confirmation over and over again, and that DNA just seals the coffin. But no, it was already sealed in a coffin, wrapped up with amulets on it, sealed in a coffin, sealed in a sarcophagus, put inside a giant pyramid by Caucasians a long time ago. But we're going to keep going with more and more analysis and learning more and more, and they're finally allowing a little bit more here recently. But this does suggest that the biblical authors might have been onto something. After all, when they talked about the world being populated by a family that set out from mountains of Ararat in Anatolia, or the Caucasus Mountain region, and most of the Middle Easterns, Europeans, and some North Africans, such as the ancient Egyptians, may have at least partially descended from people that lived there once. And here's the ancient story of it. And recently I did one on the idea and connection of in the Bible where it shows that he lets loose a raven and then he lets loose a dove, and they do the same thing in the Sumerians and so on. But that works with maritime people and stories of the ancient Phoenicians who had this idea, and they took certain birds because they knew they would go to land, so they let them loose and they'd fly up and they'd take off in a direction and they would go after them, right? And so that's what that symbology is thrown in there for. But when you read the Bible, they don't sound like people that are aquatic and all on boats a lot, do they? No, they're running around in a desert and doing all these things. Yeah, what's up with that? Now, I tell you about it in my thing, in my channel, and all my stories that I go into and everything. It's far too deep to go into now, but it actually is relating like the last in line as being finally, and then something happens. But in my belief system, the really stories of the Bible probably had a more of example of what not to do than what to do. For it shows them swaying back and forth between gods and doing everything and hemming and hawing and not quite making up a decision. So sure, the Hyksos were Caucasians, but that doesn't make anybody anything else other than Caucasian, the Caucasian Egyptians, and the Caucasian North Africans. And just to verify that one more time, let's see, where do I have it pulled up? Well, first of all, we were talking about Ethiopia before, and if one just takes a simple look at the map that the Greeks made and all the brown areas that are there in what's called Ethiopia, it isn't even really talking about Africans. It doesn't show sub-Saharan Africa exists. Microbians are down here in the Horn, and they say they're Caucasians, big and tall, and they live long lives. And so, but the brown areas here are all farmers. Yeah, and so Ethiopia has a little bit different connotation to what we have today. If you think that the place called today, which is way up here in Microbia area, is talking about that, it was always called Abyssinia until recently. Look into it. So that's that. But ancient Egyptian Caucasians. Where's that one thing that I have the blue eyes pulled up? I know I had it. But and this is a simple one, which if you were to know that this is scribes from the earliest of dynasties, and this is a 5th dynasty scribe, you might get the idea that these guys are not only just Caucasians, but they're blue-eyed, and so they'd have that fair trade also, like Ginger does, and so on. And yeah, there's a good, more full picture of it, and it's these crystal eyes. That's what I did this video about, because they're denoting how they're made out of a crystal and then beveled to look like real human eyes, and the intensity that they put into it and everything, and of course wrapped with lapis lazuli and all those things, just like the Sumerians, and they show blue-eyed statues and everything, and how that all attaches to all these people and stuff, and these ancient Aryans. And it's kind of what I guess the Germans had found out, but they did something wrong with it, but that's another story altogether. Even Horaha himself has blue and gray eyes, and depending on the turn at them, they either look blue or gray. And so are there any more good pictures in this? No. But if I was to simply do something like look up in Google blue-eyed Egyptians, you're going to see something that actually exists. So if you just simply Google blue-eyed Egyptians, like you see right there, blue-eyed Egyptians, then you can see blue-eyed Egyptians. And from the earliest dynasties, they only used these crystal blue eyes until they kind of ran out or lost the technique. But it does carry through somewhat. These are from earliest dynasties all the way through the 12th dynasty, and then 18th, and then we of course have Queen Nefertiti that everybody talks about, and boy, blacks threw a fit whenever they put out the depiction of her. Oh, she's black, and all this stuff, and wow, how pitiful to cling at something that you didn't even know existed. For she still has a blue eye left. The other one isn't blue because it's missing, but this eye is still there, and they did that recreation of her, and yeah, she's Caucasian. What else could she possibly be? People keep yelling, they ain't no whitey. What are you trying to say, whitey, like this girl here that's a red-headed pale Nordic? No, we're not saying that they're pale Nordics. They're Caucasian, means non-Negroid for sure. And then go from there. Well, they got blue eyes, blonde hair, and red hair just like this girl does. There's stories about how Akhenaten's daughter, Scadia, had married into the family of Goitelglass and come there and everything, and I've done a recent video about that too. These blue-eyed Egyptians. And look, here's the women that are even drawn more pale and blue-eyed. This is Nofret and her husband Rahotep, and they're blue-eyed. Oh, they got a dark picture here. Dark does not mean Negro. Dark with pale women does not mean Negro. Red ochre does not mean Negro. Here is an example of, well, it's not showing up too well or too big at all, but Buddha is shown with blue eyes. Gautama Buddha. The ancient Sumerian statues, there. The Egyptians. Even some people in the Aztec realm were blue-eyed and bearded whenever they don't even have beards to them. The ancient Sumerians and all of these people had a winged sun disk. And that has more connections to the Sumerians, and it shows where it actually came from. The incredible blue eye that they have, that they use in the Eye of Horus, a Wajet eye, it means blue eye. So yeah, that's about it. And the genetics, though, on this, what it showed, if you read the whole article, here's Ramses showing you he had blonde hair and everything. Well, their skin's real dark. Yeah, it gets dark. I did a video. It shows Bob Vryer doing a video of taking a real pale Caucasian and actually mummifying him, and he turns darker than beef jerky. Regardless of whatever you think past this point, West African primitives didn't know any of this existed and didn't do anything like this whatsoever. They didn't have anything to do with it or the Bible. But who did, apparently, and they say with the new genetic study that the current population only has about a 1% match with all these genetics that they pulled up out of these 90 mummies. 1%. And they say they have a lot more Negroid admix than would ever show in any of the other samples from before, which had almost nil to all of a sudden a decent percentage. Kind of like the admix that are in African American Negroids now that goes up to 20% stuff. But is it that changes it? It's the fact that they're saying that no, they don't have the same haplogroups or anything of these old ancient Egyptians that were Caucasians like the ones that are there now, but different ones and not admixed, and they had blue eyes, blonde hair, yeah, pale skin, and they, just like the Greeks, the Minoans, the Etruscans, Mitanni, and other people in this area, drew themselves with males as red ochre and females as pale. It's a Caucasian thing that really is an edict carried all the way through, even up into England, when people used to powder themselves. The nobility kept themselves, for the serfs and the people there, they always had dark skin because they have to work out in the sun. But these people are so rich they don't have to. They don't have to work. They have other people to work, and they make enough off of that they don't have to. Right? Caucasian Egyptians. On to the next one. Peace.